Welcome back to The Practical Woodsman. I'm Rhett, the creator and host of The Practical Woodsman. That's right. It's my genius which has brought this all into existence. I got to thinking about how many people's bug-out bags and emergency backup systems are probably built on the idea of solar power. And I wanted to talk about some of the realities of that and why electronic gadgets and lamps and stuff like that might not be the complete answer to being truly prepared. Before we get into that discussion, we got to do the musical introduction to get us all in the mood. Winkety winkety. Don't go away. I'll be right here when it ends. The sun is a wonderful thing, ain't it? In fact, a lot of today's technology, well, everything depends on the sun. And in fact, a lot of my approaches to my bug-out bags and those sorts of things have revolved around the idea that I can carry a rechargeable power bank, rechargeable batteries, and solar power. So what do you have to worry about if you've got this endless supply of energy that you can take anywhere? Person feel pretty secure, wouldn't they? Carrying these solar panels and these rechargeables. In fact, all the lamps, the headlamps, the lamps I've been carrying lately into the woods and putting in my bug-out bags are all built on a rechargeable solar system. The idea that I can just go indefinitely, I can charge this here power bank or any power bank and right out in the field. Don't need an electrical outlet or nothing. I can charge all of these things. No need to worry about anything, right? Well, as you might have noticed in the scriptures, the biblical scriptures that I showed at the beginning of the program, if you're a God-fearing person, that's a consideration, ain't it? The Bible indicates that perhaps, now I don't know, I can't be dogmatic and say that those prophecies are literal, that literally the sky will be darkened in the way that it describes, or if that's figurative. But let's assume that it is literal and that's waiting in the future. And you've got a bug-out bag or a preparedness plan that is built entirely around a dependency on sunlight. Well, the prophecies that the Bible points to and suggests might be literal would complicate that, wouldn't they? And it's something I was thinking about in the shower. Boy, if there were no sun, so imagine that goes on for a year. There's no sunlight for a year. What good would my solar chargers be? And what good would all of these lamps be? The batteries would all run out, and then there would be no way for me to recharge those as long as there's no electricity and that sort of thing. So that really got me. And I'll tell you what, if you're not a religious person and if you think that there's no validity to a Bible prophecy, I don't share your opinion, But let's say that you're one of those people. Consider this. What about a nuclear winter? A nuclear winter, have you ever seen the movie The Road? Or have you ever read the book The Road? Really, what good would a solar panel do you in that sort of scenario? So even if you're not a Bible-thumping type of person, or you're a skeptic, even that scenario, a nuclear winter, or any number of natural disasters could darken the sun so that your solar panels then wouldn't have much use. In fact, there have been volcanoes recently that have dimmed the sun. So just single volcanoes. So a single volcanic eruption, if it's large enough, could actually darken the sun enough so that these solar chargers and solar panels and everything would really be limited in what they could do. So, as with most things, you just can't beat the old ways, can you? I love technology. I love the things that they've got out now. I love these rechargeable lamps. I think they're great. Boy, it sure is nice to go out into the backcountry with that feeling. I'm not saying that it's actual confidence based on the truth, but at least that feeling of confidence that if you need power, you've got a handy dandy little device there that can generate it for you and charge all your stuff. I do want to tell you that I just recently come back from an outing in the woods. We had sunshine on the first afternoon, and after that we did not see straight out sunlight until like the fifth day. By the fourth day, my power bank was in dire straits. Now, I was unfolding my solar panel and getting whatever charge I could get off that gray sky day on several occasions. And it did pop it up, 10, 15% on my power bank. And that's fine, but I was still going through the power of all my devices faster than I was recuperating the charge on my power bank. So very many more days than I would have been in trouble, especially if you think about me out there trying to record things. I can only record things as long as I've got battery power. So it was getting iffy toward the end of that trip. Maybe you think I'm absolutely crazy because my belief in the Bible and Bible prophecy and everything, but that's neither here nor there. Regardless of whether you believe those things or not, there are lots of scenarios where the sun would not be reliably at your disposal for using solar power and those sorts of things. Now, having said that, the point of this show is to emphasize the wisdom in when you create these systems, these preparedness systems, bug out bag systems, sheltering in place systems, it's probably not a good idea to rely entirely on these types of things. Now, I growed up in the backcountry in Appalachia, and we did not have any of these things, and very often our electricity would go out for an entire week or longer at a time in the winter or during storms and scenarios like that. So I grew up very used to not having electricity, being able to go without, and so that made me think, there are certain things that are just dependable. They've been around forever, and they're dependable. You don't need the sun for them. So if you're going to create a system of preparedness where you want light, heat, the smartest thing, in my opinion, to do would be to create a hybrid system of solar and traditional lighting and heating methods. So I got some things to show off here. There's something brand new I'm going to try. I've never done this. I thought maybe we would try to create a lamp, kind of in the fashion of like an old style lamp from like maybe even Bible times, where we would just use olive oil and a tin and a piece of cotton for a wick. I've never done it. We're going to see if it works. I'll explain what my thinking as we do this. And so we'll get to that here in a second. But what I wanted to show you is that in my personal emergency supply of things, I keep lots of these candles. So these candles, each one of these candles are good for something like 12 hours. Each one will burn for like 12 hours. So I always have these on hand. I keep plenty of lamp oil. So it would be a good idea in any kind of system to store up a good supply of lamp oil. That's something that it works. It works whether there's any sun or not. Same thing with these candles. Candles will work no matter what, whether there's sun or not. These are the Yuko candles, and you can get the beeswax. Here it says the burn time on these is 12 hours. Let me show you what these look like. There you go. There's a beeswax candle. And the burn time on the box says that that's 12 hours just for one candle. And if you've got 3 of them, then that's 36 hours of burn time. Just 3 candles. So you see, these things are not difficult to buy and keep in storage. And then you have, let's say, any type of disaster or anything like that, or celestial supernatural phenomenon that darkens the sun for a year. You still have a way to get around and, I mean, you think about that. Think about not having sunlight, not just during the night, but all day and all night for months at a time. How difficult it would be once your batteries run out on your headlamps and stuff, just to do anything. That would be pretty interesting to experience something like that. And if I ever did experience something like that, I would hope that I had plenty of candles and these Führerhand storm lanterns. Now, I'll tell you one thing about these Führerhand storm lanterns. I use this lamp oil in them, and they don't have to be Führerhand, but I'll tell you something about them. This is why you don't want to wait until some kind of scenario where you need these things. A good example of it, when the pandemic hit, I at some point thought, maybe I'd like to buy some more of these lanterns. And I went onto the internet to try to find them. You could not find them. There had been a massive rush, I guess a worldwide rush, on these Führerhand storm lanterns. Now, you could find some of the cheaper copycat lanterns, but as far as these really high-quality Führerhand lanterns, you could not find them. And when you could find them, you had to pay an arm and a leg for them. There was a lot of price gouging going on during that time for these lanterns. Now, that's a minor example of what I'm talking about. Imagine the panic around the world if the sun was darkened, or any type of natural phenomena, or war, or nuclear war, or any of these things were to significantly dim the sun. You can imagine, at that moment, it's probably too late to go looking for something like this. You're not going to get one. People are going to be hoarding them. People are going to be making a mad rush to get them, and it's just not the time to do it. So right now, when things are calm in your life, is the time to get certain things like this. Have them on hand. They're called emergency items for a reason. You hope you won't ever actually need to use them. I'm saying need to use them. In other words, from necessity, from true necessity, have to rely on them. Hopefully that's never going to be the case. And I use them all the time because I enjoy using them. They remind me of my youth growing up in the woods when we'd get a nice, huge winter storm or something like that and knock out all the power. For me, it was like a holiday. I don't know, like a party or something. I just always really enjoyed it. We had a wood stove, so we always had heat from our wood stove. And we had candles and lanterns and all of these things that, for me, when the electricity would go out, was fantastic. I wasn't allowed to watch TV most of the time through the week. Didn't have any video games. For me, the natural world, playing out in the woods, self-sufficiency and those sorts of things in the natural environment, for me, that was my play and my excitement. So you can imagine then when we would get a snow and it would knock out all the electricity for a long, long time. Couldn't get into town to get supplies, so really, what do you got? Not to get completely off the topic here or anything, but What I would do back when I was in my late teens is that I would fish all summer long. And I'd bring that fish home, I'd fillet it. I would put it in a sandwich baggie or a freezer baggie, and I'd stick that in the freezer. And I would just save it up all summer long, everything that I caught. And so one winter, we did get an enormous snow that completely knocked out our electricity for like 2 weeks. I was home alone, except I had a friend with me, one of my buddies. My parents were in an out of state. The food started to run out. Well, I had all that fish that I had stocked the freezer with over the summertime. And I'll tell you, it was very nice to have that fish. So that's the sort of thing I'm talking about. It's these things, these small things that you do ahead of time that when they become necessary, you go, wow, I sure am glad that I put in that work, got those things, made sure I had them back when things were calm and there was no emergency. You kind of think about it like chipmunks or the squirrels, the way they prepare for winter. It's just what being prepared is like. You get all the things while you're in a favorable season. That way when things are not so favorable, you have what you need. These oil lanterns. You're going to get an oil lantern. You're going to want to make sure that you got plenty of wicks. Although used correctly, a wick in one of these oil lanterns will last a long, long time. You want to make sure that you have plenty of lamp oil. But if you don't have lamp oil, can you make your own lamp? Well, it's interesting. Back in Bible times, the lamps that they used mostly were very, very simple. Now, you saw me go out and collect some of these things here earlier. I just have a tin, and I'm going to show you. I collected some stones, some rocks, and again, I haven't read anything about this. I don't know if this is going to work or not, but it seems to me like if I filled the bottom of that tin with some stones, that would be helpful. So instead of having the oil right here directly on the bottom of the tin. And I found this shell, and this shell would actually make a good lamp if it were big enough. This shell would make a perfect lamp if it were big enough. So if you're on a shore or something like that and you have access to larger half shells, that would make an excellent lamp. This is my fire starting kit. I'm just going to pull a natural piece of cotton out of there. We're going to try to use that as our wick. Now, while I'm doing this, let me flash some images on the screen of what like the typical classic type of old world oil lamp looked like that was used often in the Holy Land. And I'm just going to try to mimic that here. And I'm going to take this cotton, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to twist it. I'm going to try to twist this into a wick. So I just ripped a ball of cotton in half there, and I'm twisting it. I'm just bringing out some of it, and I'm twisting it. Really, I'm going to try to twist it pretty tight to get that wick-like. The way that a wick works is that it absorbs oil from the bottom and burns it at the top. We got to be careful. We don't want, let's take a little bit more of that cotton off there. What we don't want is to catch our oil on fire. We just want the wick to be on fire. So let's get a little bit more of that cotton in there. I'm adding more cotton because what just occurred to me is that I want this wick to lay in the bottom of this. I want it to lay in the bottom of this here, and I want it to stick out at one end. When we get this right, we're just going to fill this up with olive oil. We're going to see if we can use natural olive oil that you might have in your kitchen to make this lamp. I'm going to pull on the cotton here. You can see my wick is getting pretty long here. And I'm just twisting. All right, it's coming along. Okay, I don't want to spend too much time on this without testing it because I want to test it to see if we're wasting our time or not. Okay, so there's my wick. And now what we're going to do, you can see that that's going to sit right in the bottom of that. So when we pour in our olive oil into there, that's going to soak the bottom here. It's going to keep the top dry. In fact, we just want a little bit of that wick to stick out. Now, the reason why I've got these other larger stones is because those are going to sit on top of our wick. That's my plan anyway. All right. So there we go. That is our lamp. The stones are just sitting on top of the wick, holding that in place. I've got stones in the bottom of the tin. And now we're going to pour in our olive oil. Actually, I'm going to sandwich that. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sandwich that between those two stones, like this. In fact, let's see if we can pull it right up the middle. I'm going to try to have the wick come right up out of the middle of this tin. That sounds to me like a better way of doing it. Sandwich between those two stones. All right, there we go. Now let's pour in our olive oil. Okay. I'm pouring a lot in there. I want there to actually be a puddle in there. I want it to completely soak that cotton at the bottom. And I don't want to make a mess all over my table. All right, gotta figure out if I want to do this in here and risk starting a fire or not. What I was going to say about this shell here is that shell, the way that it's cupped like that, you could do the same thing. So let me show you. You'd create your wick, set that in a larger shell like that, fill that up with your oil, and then light the wick here out the end. And so as you carried that, the wick would be burning over here. You'd be able to hold the shell back here, and it would puddle your olive oil inside of there. I wish I had a larger shell to actually put that to the test. Tell you what, we're going to take this over here to the floor so that I can avoid burning my house down. I'm going to turn off the lights, have that down on the floor. I do have a fire extinguisher over here if I need it. And we can get a closer look at this, and you can see a closer look of me testing this out. All right, so this is a really nice look at my tin, the way I've got the stones in there. You can actually see that the olive oil has soaked into the bottom part of that wick that we've created. And now the only thing left is to light it and see how it works. And again, I do have a fire extinguisher if I need to use it. Look at that. Look at that. It's actually working. That's amazing. Let me see if I can pick that up and carry it. Yeah, look at that. You could actually carry that. Let me back this up a little bit. Yeah, so you can actually carry that, set that out on a mantle or something like that, and it looks pretty safe. I spilled a little bit of the olive oil around here on the outside. That shouldn't heat the tin itself. The tin itself should stay pretty cool. That is a cool thing indeed. Check that out. See if we can put it on top of my stove. Yeah, so that is actually not hot at all. It's not heating the tin, but you can see it's continuing to burn just fine. Now I would say it will heat these rocks eventually. But in an emergency, there you go. You've got a perfectly good oil lamp that's not taking any kind of special oil. That's just simply olive oil, like you would have, like anybody has in their kitchen for cooking. That is pretty nifty. It's the first time I've ever done anything like that. The fact that I've never done anything like that, and I just kind of made it up on the fly, and it's so good. I mean, it's so good. Shows you how easy it is to do. Cotton ball, some rocks, and a little tin or a little holder will do the trick just fine. Okay, so you can see there in the background, I'm just continuing to let that candle burn back here. The candle, I say, oil lantern. This oil lantern that we have invented from nothing using simple olive oil. You can see it burning there, and we're just going to keep that burning until the end of the show. So anyway, I hope that this show has been interesting to you. I got to thinking again, is it wise to create all of your preparedness around a dependency on the sun? It's one of those things where you think, well, it's just going to be around forever and ever and ever. But again, this trip I took here recently, by the 4th, 5th day, I was already in dire straits, getting into dire straits. And that's just 4 or 5 days with no direct sunlight. So there was a layer of cloud. It was gray. There was some diffused light, but not enough to really power my power bank the way I would have liked. And that's what got me thinking about the idea that any system that is entirely built on a dependency for the sun, which you think is just going to be there, if you take that away, those systems become worthless. So it's a great idea to invest in some candles, some emergency candles. Have plenty of emergency candles at home. Buy yourself these Fuhrer hand lanterns. You might ask, is there really a noticeable difference between these more expensive Fuhrer hand oil lanterns and just like a Walmart oil lantern? I can tell you from experience, yes. Those Walmart oil lanterns, they malfunction. They catch fire. They don't handle being transported very well. Whereas these Fuhrer hands are just expertly made. They last a long, long time. They can be, you can travel with them, no problem. Make sure to stock up on plenty of lamp oil. But if you don't have lamp oil, make sure you stock up on plenty of cooking oil. The good thing about the oil that we used here on our makeshift lantern is that oil can be used for lots of things. You can use that for cooking. You can use that to make lanterns. You can use that to treat your high carbon steel, and you can use it on leather goods. You can use it on your skin to keep from being chapped, or if you've got dry skin breaking out. You can use it on your hair. You can use it on all sorts of things. It's good for your health. So that's one of the really wonderful things about like cooking oil, is that it's got so many different uses, whereas you can't really say that about this oil that is made specifically for lamps. Although I don't know the answer to this, I don't know if I could fuel my Fuhrer hand lantern with olive oil. I'd say I probably could, because the wick works the same way and everything, right? But what I would think about that is that your olive oil is going to be a whole lot more expensive than this lamp oil. This lamp oil, you can buy tubs of this, tubs and tubs, for a relatively low price. The olive oil, of course, you're going to pay more for that because probably it's safe for human consumption and those sorts of things. One other thing I would like to throw in here before we end this show about lamps and light and heat is one thing that I do that I would like to share with you, just in case it's something that hasn't occurred to you, is milk jugs, plastic milk jugs. Probably when you finish a gallon of milk, you just throw this away. And that's fine. But what I've done is I've started to keep in about every third one. So I've got 6 or 7 of these gallon plastic milk jugs here. I rinse them out. What can they be used for? Well, when I've been in the mountains before, and there's a freshwater spring somewhere in the mountains, and they've got a pipe jutting out of the hill where that freshwater spring is pouring out of the side of the mountain, you'll see people pull up in their pickup trucks and just fill a bunch of containers with that spring water. So again, in like a disaster situation or a worldwide event where systems start to break down and things like that, if you know where there's a supply of water and you have plenty of these empty containers, milk jug containers, well, you can load up a bunch of those in your vehicle, go out to a place where you know there's fresh spring water, and you can fill all those up and bring them back to your house. But if you don't have those containers and things go south, you're not going to get them then, are you? Because everybody makes a rush on the stuff. So that's a smart thing to do. These 1-gallon plastic milk containers can be used for so many things. To be honest with you, I use it as a chamber pot. I use an empty milk container as a chamber pot. And so here in this workspace here, I don't have a bathroom. So instead of having to go to the bathroom, back and forth to the bathroom, I use an empty milk jug as a chamber pot. And once it's full, I take it into the house. I emptied it in the commode. That's one use for them. Another use is, of course, water of any type. You can just store tons of water. And any other thing that you might need to carry. You know, you can cut these into different ways and use them for all sorts of things. So I think milk jugs are really cheap and useful. You just keep 20 of them down in your basement. You have no idea how useful how handy those might come in to being given certain circumstances. So that's my show for today. Let's go check on the old oil lantern. Actually, I'll bring it over here, and we'll close the show. There we go. I've got a little fan on me going, so it's got some wind hitting it right now. But let me show that up to the main camera here to show you just how good that's doing. That's been burning all this time, and it's not burning up the wick. The flame actually sucks the oil up through the bottom and burns at the top, and so the wick stays perfectly fine right there. And something tells me that I've got enough cooking oil in there that would keep burning. Golly. Definitely all night. So what a cool little invention there, just using a little tin and some stones and some olive oil. Folks, I appreciate you joining me for this episode of The Practical Woodsman. Hope you'll check out some of the other videos, and do me a favor. Will you press like? I hate to beg for that sort of thing. I figure if you like the video enough, you'll just do that anyway, but people being people, sometimes we forget. I know I forget when I'm watching people's videos and I go, wow, that's a great video, and then later I think I never did hit like on that video. So please hit like, share it with your friends, and I appreciate you joining me for this video. Y'all take care. I'll see you next time.